They weren't just another R&B group of the 1970s. They were a family. 5 brothers from New Bedford, Massachusetts, who took the world by storm with their flawless harmonies, up-tempo hits, and a boy-next-door charm that made them regulars on shows like The Mike Douglas Show and American Bandstand. With songs like It Only Takes a Minute and Heaven Must Be Missing an Angel, Tavares became the soundtrack to the disco era, blending soul, funk, and pop in a way few groups could match. But what happened after the glitter faded? Where are the members now in 2025, and how has life treated them beyond the spotlight? In this video, we'll take you on a journey through their rise, their triumphs, the heartbreaks, and most importantly, where the brothers of Tavares are today. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Feliciano Flash Tavares' 7 sons were, in many ways, born into their destiny. Music was not just a pastime in the Tavares household. It was a way of life, nurtured by a father whose own talent and passion left a lasting mark on southern New England's Cape Verdean American community. The brothers, John, Ralph, Arthur, better known as Pooch, Antone, Chubby, Victor Feliciano Jr., Butch, Harry Lee, Tiny, and Victor were raised on a foundation of rhythm, melody, and discipline. Their earliest lessons didn't come from formal schooling, but from the living room, where their father, Papa Tavares, guided their voices and ears with patient instruction. Known in the community as Flash, Feliciano Sr. was a self-taught guitarist and singer whose skills earned him respect long before his sons stepped into the spotlight. In the 1940s, he forged a unique style, blending Cape Verdean melodies with the pulse of American jazz and popular music. His sound was modern, yet deeply rooted in heritage, an Americanized interpretation that kept the heart of his homeland alive. For 6 decades, Flash stood as a beacon of Cape Verdean American music, his reputation radiating through southern New England's clubs and dance halls. Music ran deep in the family's blood. Albina, the boy's mother, was a singer herself, while their aunt, Flash's sister, Victoria Vicky Vieira, developed her own original sound. Vicky was a pioneer in fusing Cape Verdean songs with jazz stylings, singing with celebrated local acts like the Skyliners, and Phil Barbosa's Latin dance band, where a teenage Chick Corea once played piano. The Tavares household, filled with laughter, conversation, and always a record spinning, became a hub where tradition met innovation. By the time the boys reached their teens, their ears had tuned to the thrilling rise of rhythm and blues. Doo-wop groups like the Flamingos, the Moonglows, and the Harptones captured their imagination with shimmering harmonies, inspiring the brothers to shape a style of their own. While Papa Flash embraced many kinds of music, he was cautious with newer sounds. His love for jazz ran deep, but he stopped short at rock and roll. The task of pushing the family band forward fell to the eldest son, John. More than just a singer, John was the front man, the entertainer, the clown, the one who could light up a room with energy. He taught his brothers the intricacies of doo-wop, layering harmonies until they moved as one. "I came from a family of 10, 3 sisters and 7 brothers," one of the brothers later reflected. "We were all gifted by the good Lord and from our dad, who was an entertainer. Out of all my brothers, we all sang very well. John was the clown, the front man. He taught us doo-wop. We followed groups like the Flamingos, the Harptones, the Moonglows. They had great harmonies. And John said, 'Yeah, we can be like them, but we have to create our own sound.' And we did that for a few years." On the home front, the Tavares' dream never paused. While their father Flash continued shaping the Cape Verdean American music scene, the younger generation was carving out its own identity. Arthur Pooch Tavares and Antone Chubby Tavares teamed up with their younger brother Victor Jr., known as Butch, to form a group they called Chubby and the Realities. At first, the odds seemed stacked against them. Being underage meant they couldn't perform in nightclubs or bars, the usual training grounds for aspiring musicians. But instead of waiting, the boys found another stage, New England's teen circuit. High school auditoriums, Catholic youth organization dances, youth clubs, and sock hops became their proving ground. There, they began building a reputation for tight harmonies, energetic performances, and the kind of boy-next-door charm that made them instant favorites with young audiences. Meanwhile, their brother Ralph was on a very different path. He had joined the Army's Airborne Division as a paratrooper, stationed at Fort Campbell, straddling the border of Kentucky and Tennessee. But even military service couldn't separate him from music. On weekends, Ralph would make the long trip north to Detroit, where he immersed himself in the vibrant scene at the legendary 20 Grand Club. This wasn't just entertainment. It was Motown in its rawest form, a proving ground for acts like the Contours, the Marvelettes, and the Four Tops. Watching these future legends up close, Ralph absorbed everything. He studied their stagecraft, their presence, their harmonies. He was impressed, but also inspired. They were great, he later reflected, but they weren't doing anything we couldn't do. In fact, I thought we could do it better. Those weekends in Detroit planted the seeds of ambition that would later transform the family's fortunes. When Ralph was honorably discharged in 1964, he returned home to New England with a new sense of purpose. He tracked down his brothers, who by then were fronting a nightclub band. The problem was clear. They were working hard, with Butch often being the star attraction, but the band leader wasn't paying them fairly. The brothers had talent but no direction, and Ralph knew they were being shortchanged. That's when Ralph stepped in with a bold vision. He told his brothers it was time to stop playing small and start thinking big. He laid out a plan to take the group to a professional level, rehearse harder than ever before, polish their act, and eventually land a recording contract with a major label. "We can take this all the way to the top," he insisted. And with that, Ralph wasn't just another singer in the lineup. He became the strategist, the organizer, the one determined to turn raw family talent into a polished act ready for national recognition. The brothers agreed, and soon they were rehearsing with a vengeance. They began picking up gigs at clubs where house bands could back them, sharpening their sound with every performance. Then, in 1967, they caught a major break. An engagement in Boston opening for none other than the OJs. For the first time, they were sharing the bill with national talent. Backing them that night was a band called The Preachers, led by a gifted saxophonist named Quinn Harris. Harris was no ordinary musician. He was studying at the prestigious Berklee College of Music in Boston under the mentorship of none other than Quincy Jones. By night, he played club gigs to support himself. By day, he was immersed in jazz and theory. The brothers quickly found themselves in sync with saxophonist Quinn Harris, his drummer Jim Atkins, and a young keyboard prodigy in the band, a then unknown Bernie Worrell, who would later become a legend with Parliament Funkadelic. The chemistry was immediate. With their own backing band now in place, the Tavares brothers suddenly had the polish and power of a full professional act. They began making the rounds on the New England nightclub circuit, sharpening their sound in front of live audiences night after night. Before long, they secured a regular engagement at the Jim Nantz Lounge Club in Boston, owned by Patriots star running back Jim Nantz. Playing under the bright lights of a club run by a local sports hero gave the group prestige and credibility. With sharp suits, tight harmonies, and a new confidence, they were no longer just another family act from New Bedford. They were becoming one of the hottest live attractions in the Northeast. As their reputation grew, change inevitably followed. Jim Atkins left the group, and in his place came a young, fiery drummer named Joey Kramer, who would later find worldwide fame as a founding member of Aerosmith. With this new lineup, the group began pushing further beyond New England, making exploratory trips into New York City, knocking on doors, hustling for gigs, and chasing every possible opportunity to break through. Their persistence paid off when Capitol Records came calling. Signing with a major label was the breakthrough they had been working toward, but it came with strings attached. Before any recordings were released, Capitol executives raised a concern. The name Chubby and the Realities sounded dated, too much like an act from the past instead of a group fit for the new youth-driven market. The label insisted on a fresh identity, something modern, sleek, and symbolic of the new America. They chose Chubby and the Turnpikes, a name inspired by the booming interstate highway system created under the Eisenhower Highway Act of 1956. The name evoked speed, progress, and the restless energy of the times. The brothers didn't resist. If anything, they understood that image was now as important as sound. Their fans adjusted quickly, and the new name became official. As Ralph later recalled, "I created a group. The group consisted of 4 guys. I had a 3-piece rhythm section, guitar, bass guitar, and drums, and we called ourselves Chubby and the Realities. I did this for a few years. My brother Ralph got out of the service. Ralph came in. Then we brought my brother Victor in. That's when we changed the name to Chubby and the Turnpikes." Finally, in 1968, the group's first record was released. The single, "I Know the Inside Story," was a revelation. Backed with "I Didn't Try," it immediately caught fire in southern New England. Local radio stations gave it heavy rotation, and sales were brisk throughout the Northeast. The effect on their live shows was electric. Audiences swelled, and the group began appearing on regional television programs, building their profile beyond clubs and into homes across the region. They were now sharing stages with major touring acts, opening for big-name stars who came through the Northeast. For the TAVARES brothers, it felt like the breakthrough moment had arrived. Yet, despite the muscle of Capitol Records behind them, "I Know the Inside Story" never broke nationally. The hit they dreamed of never materialized across the U.S., even though collectors and fans later came to recognize it as one of the finest Northern soul records ever pressed. By the late 1960s, the grind of clubs and small stages was beginning to pay off. Ralph Tavares, who had long served as the strategist of the group, secured a crucial break. He managed to place Chubby and the Turnpikes with one of the most powerful agencies in the business. Their appointment in New York City was at the Bowen Agency, run by Ruth Bowen, a trailblazer in every sense of the word. Bowen was not just any manager. She was the first African-American woman to open her own booking agency, and her roster included some of the finest acts in soul and R&B. She had discovered Tommy Hunt, guided the careers of legends, and built a reputation for spotting talent long before the rest of the industry caught on. When she saw the Tavares brothers, she knew immediately what they could become. She signed them, and the effect was immediate. With Bowen behind them, the quality of their bookings skyrocketed. The group was suddenly appearing in more prestigious venues, rubbing shoulders with the stars they once looked up to from a distance. One of their most notable early breaks came when they opened for Ike and Tina Turner at the Boston Arena, a gig that put them before thousands of fans and proved they could hold their own alongside one of the fiercest live acts in the world. Yet even as the Turnpikes were climbing, changes were happening within. Chubby, the group's original frontman, decided to step away for personal reasons in 1967. Without him, the brothers continued, but the name Chubby and the Turnpikes no longer made sense. They shortened it simply to the Turnpikes and carried on through the late 60s, refining their sound and keeping their momentum alive. It wasn't until the early 1970s, however, that fate intervened again, this time through family. Chubby's younger brother Butch had just married Lola Falana, the glamorous dancer, singer, and actress who was making waves in both the U.S. and Europe. Falana invited the brothers to join her on tour in Italy, billing them as her opening act. It was an incredible opportunity, exposing the group to international audiences for the first time. But there was a problem. Italian audiences had no idea what a turnpike was. In Italy, there were autostradas. In Germany, there were autobahns. But turnpike meant nothing. The brothers realized that if they wanted to build something lasting, their name had to reflect who they truly were. After years of singing together as a family, they made the decision to drop the gimmicky monikers and embrace their own identity. From that point forward, they would simply be known as TAVARES. Around this time, they recorded a demo of a song called Check It Out, a sleek, harmony-rich track that captured their blend of soul, R&B, and pop crossover appeal. Their manager, Brian Panella, quietly shopped the demo around, and before long, he landed them a deal with Capitol Records. In 1973, the Tavares brothers officially debuted under their family name. Check It Out became their first top 40 pop hit and their first R&B top 10 hit, instantly proving they had what it took to compete on the national stage. Their debut album, also titled Check It Out, even featured their brother Victor, who sang lead on the track that launched their career. But just as the group's star was rising, Victor decided to bow out, leaving the spotlight to his brothers. It was the end of one chapter, but the beginning of a much larger story. With Check It Out climbing the charts and the name Tavares now known across America, the brothers were finally stepping into the destiny that had been planted in them since childhood, back in the Cape Verdean household filled with music. By the mid-1970s, Tavares had fully arrived. In 1974, they scored their first #1 R&B hit with the soaring ballad She's Gone, a song that cemented their reputation as masters of harmony-driven soul. But it was the following year, 1975, that brought them their greatest commercial success. Their album In the City climbed into the top 40 pop albums, while singles like Remember What I Told You to Forget became fan favorites. The crown jewel of that year, however, was It Only Takes a Minute. The single rocketed into the top 10 on the pop charts and captured the #1 spot on the R&B charts, making it their biggest hit to date. Riding this wave of success, the brothers found themselves opening for none other than the Jackson 5, a career milestone that introduced them to massive audiences across the country. Their winning streak continued into 1976, when they delivered two of their most beloved songs, Heaven Must Be Missing an Angel and Don't Take Away the Music. Both singles lit up dance floors and airwaves, confirming that Tavares was no one-hit wonder, but a group that could consistently deliver chart toppers. In 1977, they struck again with Who Done It, which became another #1 R&B hit, proving they had mastered the art of creating tracks that connected deeply with both soul and pop listeners. That same year, they collaborated with their Capitol Records label mate Frida Payne on I Wanna See You Soon, While I've Been Missing You. Baby found modest success with airplay on the BBC. But despite their strong R&B roots, the brothers were increasingly labeled a disco act. This image was reinforced when they appeared on the iconic soundtrack of Saturday Night Fever in 1977. Their rendition of the Bee Gees' More Than a Woman became a top 40 pop hit, securing them a place in music history. The soundtrack went on to become one of the best-selling albums of all time, and it brought Tavares their only Grammy Award, a crowning achievement in their career. Still, the brothers wanted to remind the world that they were more than disco. Later albums like Madam Butterfly, 1979, and Supercharged, 1980, moved away from the dance floor and leaned back into R&B and socially conscious material. Songs like Never Had a Love Like This Before and Bad Times, written by British singer-songwriter Gerard McMahon, kept them in the top 10 R&B charts, even as their pop success began to cool. By the early 1980s, Tavares parted ways with Capitol Records and signed with RCA. Their chart dominance waned, but they managed one last shining moment with A Penny for Your Thoughts in 1982, which earned them another Grammy nomination. Their final major release came with the album Words and Music in 1983. Change was inevitable. In 1984, Ralph Tavares, the eldest brother, stepped down, passing the torch to his siblings. Pooch transitioned into the role of a behind-the-scenes business manager, while Tony pursued a solo career in the mid-1990s. The remaining brothers carried the Tavares legacy forward, continuing to tour and perform for loyal fans around the world. Their story, however, was not without heartbreak. In 2008, the family patriarch, Papa Tavares, passed away, marking the end of an era for the family that had given the world so much music. But his spirit lived on through his sons. In 2009, Tiny Tavares Jr. joined the group, ensuring that the Tavares name remained alive on stage. Tiny even released his own solo project, Jealousy, in 2012, showcasing the next generation's voice. The brothers continued to shine on the live circuit, joining forces with legends like the Four Tops and the Temptations on a UK tour that celebrated the enduring power of classic soul. In 2013, their decades of contribution to R&B were officially recognized when they were honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award by the National R&B Music Society at a black tie gala in Atlantic City. For the first time in 37 years, all six brothers reunited on stage, harmonizing once more as if no time had passed. Tavares, members in 2025. So after all these years, where are the members now? Ralph Tavares, the eldest, was the architect of the family's musical journey. He had helped form the original group, guiding his younger brothers with the discipline and vision he had cultivated during his years in the Army. But as the years passed and the band's whirlwind of tours and recording sessions began to take its toll, Ralph was the first to step back. In 1984, he left the stage for a more grounded life, taking a job as a court officer in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Though the music business remained in his blood, Ralph found satisfaction in stability, in the quiet rhythms of everyday life. Yet the bond with his brothers never broke entirely. Ralph passed away in December 2021, just 2 days before the group's 50th anniversary, leaving behind a legacy as the foundation stone of Tavares' remarkable story. Arthur "Pooch" Tavares, the smooth baritone and family's business anchor, followed a different path. When Ralph retired, Pooch stepped in to manage the group's affairs, ensuring that the Tavares name continued to grace stages across the country. Though he no longer performed, his presence was felt in every booking and every carefully organized tour. Pooch dedicated himself to keeping the band's legacy alive, a quiet guardian of their history. Today, at 83, he remains a guiding force behind the scenes, ensuring that the brothers' music continues to reach new audiences. Antone "Chubby" Tavares, one of the founding voices, preferred a life away from the public eye once the peak of their fame passed. Chubby had shared lead vocals in the early days and helped set the tone for the group's signature sound. In later years, he stepped away, attending occasional reunions and tribute events. His focus shifted to family and community, quietly nurturing the connections that had always anchored him. At 81, Chubby's life is a testament to the man behind the music, the one who helped build Tavares but never needed the spotlight to define him. Perry Lee "Tiny" Tavares remained closest to the stage, his powerful tenor carrying on the family tradition. Even after the original momentum slowed, Tiny embraced solo work, releasing his album Jealousy in 2012 and proving that his voice had lost none of its strength or soul. He also helped usher in the next generation, with his son Tiny Jr. joining the group for a time. Music remained the central heartbeat of his life, a bond that tied together past, present, and future. At 76, Tiny continues to perform selectively, carrying forward the family legacy with passion and pride. Feliciano "Butch" Tavares balanced life in the spotlight with family commitments. Known for his soaring tenor, Butch remained a key performer even as his brothers stepped back or retired. His marriage to entertainer Lola Falana in the 1970s briefly placed him in a new kind of celebrity orbit, but he ultimately returned to his first love, music. Today, at 74, Butch enjoys a quieter life, performing at special events and keeping the spirit of Tavares alive for longtime fans. Victor Tavares, who had sung lead on the group's first hit, Check It Out, took a slightly different course. After leaving the band early on, Victor pursued solo endeavors and carved out a private life away from the constant glare of the stage. Though he didn't achieve the same fame as his brothers, he maintained a place in the Tavares story. In 2013, he reunited with his siblings for their Lifetime Achievement Award performance, stepping back into the spotlight to honor the family that had defined him. At 77, Victor lives largely out of public view, but remains an integral part of the Tavares legacy. From Grammy-winning performances and disco-fueled nights to quiet retirements and family milestones, the story of Tavares is one of brotherhood, perseverance, and enduring music. Each brother followed a unique path, yet together they built something timeless, songs and memories that continue to resonate across generations. What's your favorite Tavares memory or song? Share it in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more legendary stories from music's golden era.